Lucinda, you're with the same firm for 18 years in a practice in Launceston. 8 years of that, you're a partner. Something happened.
Yeah.
You realised that your own values weren't aligned within that organisation. What did you try and do? What did you try and bring about? And what were the final outcomes?
Probably need to give you a little bit of backstory as to how I got to be within the firm for 18 years and how I became a partner of that firm. I suppose I'd always been really focused on my career, and I really, right from the outset, I wanted to be a partner of an accounting firm. That was what I was driven to do through my education and my work practices. So when I was 27, I'd been at this firm for 8 years, and I was in a senior management role, and I, fronted up to a partners meeting and said to what was, a board of male, middle-aged men, I would really like to be a partner of this firm one day. Is that something that you would ever consider? And if not, that's absolutely okay, but I kind of need to know at this point if that's not something that you see is possible. And I was petrified, as one is when they front up to that. Fortunately, they reflected on it and came back to me quite quickly within a few days and offered me a partnership within the firm. And we entered into a 12-month process where I could be a part of the board without being an equity owner of the firm and do my internal due diligence, I suppose, which at that point I thought wasn't a real risk because I'd been at the firm for 8 years. I knew this firm inside out. But what I found when I reflected on it was that what I wanted to achieve out of my personal life as well as my career weren't a good fit for the firm. They had never had a female partner before. They had certainly never had a young female partner that was really open about the fact that she wanted to have children and wanted to have a family. And I was really concerned, amongst other things, that the firm wasn't structured in a way that that was going to be possible and that that would be okay. So I very nervously, again, declined the partnership offer, the one I'd asked for in the first place, which seemed a little ridiculous at the time. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, am I even going to be able to go to work tomorrow after I did that? And fortunately for me, they turned around and said, no, we actually need to think about how we make this work within the firm. And we went through a process of 12 months. I said, give us 12 months to prove that we can change and we can implement all the things that are necessary to allow that to occur. And what they did, now I reflect back on it, is they really gave me free rein. So for 12 months, I instigated huge amounts of change, whether it was just the practicalities of the way that work was processed and done so that it could be done internally or from a home site, or the flexibilities that needed to be put in, or the structure that needed to be put in place to allow the flexibilities to occur. And it was fantastic. And we made huge amounts of change. And I then accepted that partnership offer. And I maintained a partnership there for 8 years. But what I found was, and I'm very grateful to them for the changes that they allowed me to make and to have within that firm. And I went on to have 3 children whilst I was a partner of that firm. But over time, it all started to go back. So it started to erode. All the change that we put in place, particularly, I didn't have a lot of maternity leave, but if I was out of the office for a couple of months, things would go back to the comfortable old. And it came down to, one dominant partner within the firm that had very different aligned values than what I did, and very different values about the progression of staff in the workplace and the notion of if you're not seen to be there and working, then you mustn't be working as hard as everybody else. Despite the fact that you're working at home, you might be more efficient, more productive, and very, very busy. So I reflected on that and quite a lot of things that had occurred in the 8 years, and I realised that no matter how hard I fought against it, because the values didn't align with my own, I was never going to instigate a long-term change that was going to be permanent within the organisation. So I resigned, and a resignation at that point was a 3-year resignation period because they'd never taken into consideration that someone might just want to leave. It had been done for retiring partners so they could transition clients. So that was a little daunting, and I negotiated down to 18 months. But for those that have ever resigned and then rocked up to work for that couple of weeks where it's awkward, Imagine that for 18 months after you've told them that you don't want to be in business with them anymore because your values don't align. It was awkward at best. And they kept it really quiet for almost 12 months of that 18-month period, which actually made it quite bearable because you kind of just pretended it wasn't really going on. So since then, I left there on the 30th of June just gone, and on the 1st of July I commenced my own accounting practice where hopefully the values will be better aligned.
One of the things that you were talking about, I think Liz and Kirsten, around mandatories, learning. You mentioned the word learning, and so to Lucinda and Karen and Alyssa, what have been your mandatories when you've been working? I think career mandatories change over time as your career and the level within the organisation. But around values and our theme today of balance, what have been some of your key mandatories that are non-negotiable?
So mine are integrity, self-integrity, and particularly coming through a period of really tough, that 18 months of going to work, things being said behind one's back, directly to one's face, maintaining your own self-integrity and departure with that integrity intact. But also life learning. And I was one of the first lecturers for CTA too, for the Tax Institute. And very, very much all about, in our careers, everything is changing so rapidly that we can't be good at what we do unless we are constantly developing, whether it's our interpersonal skills or our technical skills. And it's sort of the speech I give to my new juniors when they start, which is if you commit yourself, we will teach you all the skills that you need to be able to be a really fantastic accountant.
Yeah, thank you.